Over the years, I've used a number of lead generation tools, including so-called, lead generation website, and nothing compares to the technology with Favorite Agent. I get good, solid leads from sellers and buyers literally every day. Produced more viable leads probably in 2008 than in any of the 15 years I've been in business. You got to keep in mind that this year's probably the worst year for real estate in the 15 years I've been in business. So to grow my business in this kind of conditions has just been outstanding.
Hi, my name is Matt Jones, and I'm the President and CEO of FavoriteAgent.com. According to the 2004 National Association of Realtors profile of home buyers and sellers, a full 77% of all our customers are using the Internet for at least some part of their home searches. And that number is growing. In the last year alone, it increased by 26%. These days, to be out of the net is to be out of business. The simple fact is that if we don't learn to tap the Internet, odds are we'll be doing something else besides real estate in a few short years. So let's take a look at these Internet home buyers. Here are some things you may want to know about them. They're better educated. They have more money. They're buying more house. Their search time's shorter. And they like to help in the process. Sounds like the perfect customer, doesn't it? However, today's real estate customer is more demanding than his predecessor, and he wants information right now. Tomorrow's not good enough. He goes to the Internet to get that information, and if you're not there, several national lead aggregators will be there to grab him. It's absolutely imperative that you have a strong web presence, that you learn how to capture business from the web, and most importantly, that you know how to respond to today's Internet customer. Okay, so let's talk about the nature of Internet leads. How are they different from other leads, like referrals or duty desk leads? Should you handle them much the same as you would a sign call, or should you treat them like an open house lead? How can you know how to approach them? Are they all the same? An agent who's come up doing traditional real estate and who's been very successful at it is often very unsuccessful when he tries to transition to Internet leads. Why? Because he tends to approach Internet leads the same way he's always approached leads. And for the first time in his career, he'll find himself failing. His first temptation, or the first temptation for any confident, successful agent, is to assume that Internet leads are of poor quality, since for whatever reason, and even though he clearly knows how to prospect, he's not making a connection with these leads. And this problem is compounded by the fact that many of the sellers of Internet leads provide very little information, often just a name and an email address. The reason many agents fail in prospecting Internet leads is a fundamental misunderstanding of the real estate buying cycle. The Internet customer is an ordinary customer with the same needs and motivations as any other real estate customer, except that, as research shows us, the Internet customer is the cream of the crop, so to speak. So let's talk about the real estate buying cycle and how we can use our knowledge to change the way we approach and follow up with real estate customers on the Internet. The real estate buying cycle consists of 3 phases. First, the information gathering phase. Phase 2, the search. And phase 3, escrow. Now, this buying cycle has been relatively unchanged for many years. Until recently, though, very few agents knew of the existence of phase 1. Make no mistake, phase 1 has been with us as long as people have been using agents to buy real estate. But until recently, it's remained largely unknown. Now, phase 1 is the information gathering phase. The best research indicates that home shoppers begin the process of buying a house about 4 to 6 weeks before the beginning of phase 2, or 6 to 8 weeks before the beginning of phase 3. At first, they're just thinking and dreaming, but that dreaming leads to visualization, and as they become obsessed with the idea of getting a new home. In fact, in their minds, they've already bought one. And during the early part of phase 1, the buyer's thinking about budget and features and amenities and neighborhoods and school districts. And let's not forget that this is the American dream. We're taught from earliest childhood that home ownership is very much a mark and measure of success in our culture, so we want to be careful and thorough in our search process. In this initial phase, the customer is solidifying in his own mind what he wants to buy. He chooses his search criteria and his budget, often incorrectly, as any experienced agent can tell you. This is a very important part of the buying cycle, and it's going to happen whether we like it or not. The best thing we can do is realize it, accept it, and plan for it. Most importantly, phase 1 of the buying cycle is the only part of the process that every customer wants to do on his own. Our clients don't want us to help them shape their dream. They don't want their dream shaped by agents, parents, friends, or anybody else for that matter. They want the dream to be theirs. And this phase is going to last 4 to 6 weeks. Anyone attempting to speed that process up does so at his own peril. Okay, well that brings us to phase 2, the search phase. After the information gathering phase has run its course, the buyer proceeds to a new phase, and there's a mental shifting of gears. He's decided what it is that he wants, and he's now in a legitimate quest to actually find it. Now, this phase typically lasts only about 2 weeks, and according to the NAR, the search process has actually been shortened by about a week during the last several years because of all the technology tools that are now available everywhere. Real estate shoppers understand that they need us to help them in the process of finding their dream homes. But what they don't want, and I cannot reiterate this enough, is for us to try to shape their dreams. That part of the process is very personal for most customers. Okay, during the search phase, phase 2 of the buying cycle, the customer wants to look at actual houses. He'll typically do lots of drive-by looking on his own, and he'll begin skimming through home magazines. Remember, he knows what he wants now, and he's out to find it. And somewhere in the middle of this search phase, he wants to begin working with an agent. This is the crucial part of understanding the buying cycle. The agent who's on the customer's mind when he reaches phase 2 is the agent who will ultimately close the transaction and collect the commission. So how do you become that agent? This is the secret, by the way, to working internet leads. By being there. You need to be there at the precise moment when the prospective buyer calls a duty desk, the moment when he picks up a home magazine and calls an agent, the moment when he's out riding around looking at neighborhoods and decides to make a sign call. This is how most agents have traditionally picked up their new customers. Well, the customer hasn't changed with the advent of the internet. What has changed is when the customer comes into our lives. And this search phase, which is usually only 2 weeks long now, lasts until the customer finally finds his dream home and gets an accepted contract. Okay, phase 3, the escrow phase. Beginning with the acceptance of the contract and moving forward to closing, there's the third and final phase of the buying cycle, also known as the escrow phase. And it's at this point that the buyer's found a home and is very emotional about it. Every little bump in the road becomes a drama. And this is one of the reasons that home buyers and sellers need us. We aren't as emotionally connected to their dreams. Certainly we identify with a client and wish the best for him, but and let's not forget we want to be paid for our work, but we don't have the same level of emotional attachment to the transaction that our client feels. Therefore, a skilled agent will minimize the potential bumps in the road by making sure during phase 2 that the client actually has been pre-approved, not just pre-qualified. By the way he negotiates a contract, he'll show the client how to eliminate deal breakers. Maybe he won't allow a home inspection to create needless drama, but instead will use it only to protect the client from unseen structural damage in a house, rather than using it as a second negotiation round, as many beginning agents do. How well phase 3 goes is entirely dependent on how well the agent does during phase 2. It should be noted that almost all the legal problems arising in real estate transactions will surface during phase 3, which is why all of us need to excel at the setting and managing of customer expectations. This is one of the most important things you can take away from this training session. If you learn nothing else, you should at least be looking at the internet leads differently. And here's why. Internet leads come during phase 1. Do you see the advantage? Has a light clicked on? Has the aha popped into your head yet? According to the National Association of Realtors, 74% of all buyers and 76% of all sellers will work with the first agent they talk to. And what that statistic means, unfortunately, is that our clients see us all as largely the same. Now, I know we aren't the same, but what's important is what our clients think. If they see us as a commodity and more or less interchangeable, and if we still want to have some kind of strategic advantage, we need to be first. And if we're first, the odds of our doing the deal are 3-1 in our favor, period. The only way to change that ratio is to mess it up. What a huge advantage. A smart agent will simply identify the customer first and then devise strategies that make sure he doesn't mess up the process, so to speak. The rest will take care of itself. Well, let me close this session with a simple yet powerful illustration that will change the way you look at internet leads. I want you to think back to the last time you shopped at your favorite department store. Now, if you're like me, you don't have a lot of time to waste, so when you go shopping, you go because you want to buy something. Now, remember when you walked into the clothing department how a sharp sales clerk came up to you and said, "Can I help you?" Now, I want you to be completely honest. What was your answer? You know what it was. It was the same as mine. "No thanks, I'm just looking." And I'm willing to bet that within 5 minutes you were looking around and finding that same clerk to help you locate something in your size. Did you really mean that you weren't interested? Or were you simply implying that you wanted to gather information for a few minutes by yourself and that later on, when you were searching, you might actually need his assistance? Well, it's really no different for a real estate customer, except that the buying cycle is much longer given the price point of the purchase. The internet customer is still gathering information when most agents call to say, "Can I help you?" So there are generally only 2 reasons that an agent will fail in working internet leads. Either he'll take the "no thanks, I'm just looking" literally, as though the customer wants nothing to do with him, and that's part of the time, but more often he won't take the hint, and instead he'll insist on trying to set up an appointment to start showing houses immediately. And this overbearing, hard sell approach simply alienates the agent from the potential customer and removes any chance of his gaining the business. Make no mistake, that customer will go on to buy or sell, but with another agent. What a tragedy. Is there a solution to this fundamental problem? Well, of course. The first step is to embrace the reality that the internet is a legitimate source of business and it's here to stay. At the current rate of growth, virtually all real estate customers will use the internet for help in their property searches or sales within the next year or 2. And as real estate professionals, we can either accept that fact and learn to capitalize on it, or we can begin to build our parachute and look for an exit. The next step is to understand the real estate buying cycle and know that customers won't want us around much during phase 1. Around, no. In touch, yes. But not in a pushy way. We need to learn the skill of staying visible but not pushy. Our job is to be helpful. What could be simpler? Learn to serve your customers, not asking anything in return. You're simply there to make a friend. Research shows that a home buyer will work with the agent that he likes, so be that agent. Your job is simply to make him like you during this crucial first phase. Finally, the third step is to have in place a follow-up system that will allow you to maintain contact with future customers over a longer period, even when you're feeling overwhelmed with present customers. The rule of thumb is to keep it short and to keep it personal. Mix it up. Use phone calls and emails. But remember, 20 to 30 words in a short but personal email will do much more than any mindless drip campaign. We're making friends here. Hey, let's be honest. When we all get mindless drip campaign emails, we know it. And so will your client. We owe it to them to become personally involved. Increase frequency of contact as your client gets closer to entering phase 2. And when you're tempted to dial up the pressure in your early internet prospecting, remember this simple truth. 3/4 of our customers will use the first agent they talk to, assuming they can remember who that is. So stay in touch and stay out of the way, and the odds are 3-1 that you'll earn a commission. It's really very simple when you think about it. The buyer wants to buy, the seller wants to sell, the lender wants to lend, the closing attorney wants to close. If we just stay out of the way and stay in touch, we get paid. What a fantastic business.